right, welcome to another episode of Short Track Radio, again coming to you via Zoom, and our first off-island guest, or guest we're interviewing from off the island, Jason White, former full-time driver in the NASCAR Pinty series, current part-time driver in that series, as well as dabbling in a little bit of ARCA in the truck series. Jason, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure. Really enjoy your show. So it's great to be on.
Awesome. And Cody is repping the vintage Vantrite shirt. Again, as anybody who has a super modified connection from the 90s, we make sure that Cody is wearing the Vantrite shirt.
Yeah, I was going to do it every time we had an episode, and then it just didn't want to work.
Cody forgot.
I forgot. So, Jace, you come from a long line of racing family there with your dad, Marty White. It's got a picture up on the screen of some of his old cars. Looked like he got racing about 1970 in the Supers. And that's how we got connected, essentially, with some Facebook messaging about the Ventrite family. So just maybe want to start off with maybe touching on your dad's racing career a little bit and how you're involved in that.
Yeah, you bet. Langley Speedway was where it all began, and like you said, the early 70s. He started out racing there, and I was born in 73, and I was tumbling down the green grassy knoll at Langley Speedway before too long, and that's kind of how it all began. So he went up through the old modifieds there, and he was actually the first NASCAR champion in Canada. NASCAR sanctioned champion. He was the modified division champion, and I believe 75 and 76 back to back. So had quite a lot of success there. And coming up into the late 70s, Jack Cross got really badly hurt in a camera crash in the Canadian American Modified Racing Association there back in the late 70s, and he asked my dad to drive his car for him. So Dad drove his car and did very well, and triggered Bob Wills out of Kamloops to drive the Cami Special. And he started that in 79. I believe he won the Rookie of the Year. By 1982, he was the first guy to have a wild offset roadster, Oswego-style roadster. They went all the way back east to Oswego and built that car, and he went out and won the championship in 82. And, at that time, I was a bit young to be, working on cars and stuff. I was 10 years old or whatever. So I was the camera guy, and got to be up in the grandstands a lot. And as we spoke earlier, I learned a lot from outside the fence, looking in. And I got to be around a lot of promoters. Dick Boness is a very great promoter that I always looked up to at Spanaway Speedway, and always knew how to make the fans have a great experience. He had, Wednesday night shows and learned how to do things. So I learned how to be a racer off the track first before I learned on the track. And I learned a lot about promotion and self-promotion and promoting drivers and how important all that was. And, my brother Jim's 5 years older than me. So he's a guy in the pits. He was learning how to set up cars and build parts and work on cars and stuff like that. And, I've always said he's a crew chief in the seat. Great, hell of a shoe. I mean, as you guys have seen him run, he's a hell of a shoe, but he's a crew chief type guy. He doesn't really grasp the marketing stuff, or does he have the ambition to grasp the marketing stuff? So, my mom's always says if we could put the two of us together, we would have been in Daytona or Indianapolis a long time ago. So.
Nice.
So in a nutshell, that's we kind of moved on from there. Dad got the opportunities to run in the Fire and Fury series. And, he ran for some pretty awesome drivers or some awesome car owners there. The Knoll brothers and the Wrights family, and just a ton of the Gaddy Farms group, racing with Rich Vogler and Billy Vukovic and Gary Bentonhausen and Davey Hamilton and guys like that. So when Dad was at the height of his career, that's right when I was starting my career at Deming Speedway. And my brother Jim and I both got some mini sprint cars and ran Deming for a while, and that's kind of how it all began.
Now you had a start in racing. Was it before this or at the same time? But it was on skis, I believe.
So we kind of took a hiatus away from racing as my family started our trucking and excavation companies, and there was a bit of a lull. My dad sold his last race car and bought my mom a great big diamond and gold ring. because she had been supporting him for so long in his racing career. So she liked that. So we took a hiatus, and we all started a couple companies at Sun Peaks Resort in 1993. Concrete company and excavation and trucking companies with gravel and stuff. So we really put forth an effort to get our companies off the ground. And I moved up to Sun Peaks, and I started hanging out with a lot of my friends had been World Cup speed skiers. And I got the bug of going fast on skis, and ended up going to some World Cups, and ended up going over to Europe, and ended up being on the Canadian team, and clocked a speed of 205 kilometers an hour, 127 miles an hour on skis. So
I was reading a little stat that there's Sun Peaks is known for the quick residents there. There's 10 plus people that have made over 200 kilometers an hour. So that's getting pretty quick on that. Sun Peaks started a series, downhill ski series, what, 89? So was that your friends that started that?
Yeah, so my buddies Kenny Dale, Adam Earl, Don Gagno, Mark Woloski, Bill Sanish, they started the old Dash series. They were touring on in Sun Peaks at Todd Mountain at the time. They were crazy, man. Like, we groom with laser groomers now, and those guys were shoveling humps off the top of these big bumps down the head walls, and they would just tuck it from there. So what they did was absolutely insane. What we did was a little more precise and a little more on the program, but I found a lot of similarities in the speed skiing. You know, preparation of your equipment was one of them. Riding on a flat ski was the other, rather than railing on the edges on the steel. You know, trying to find camber, caster, all that sort of stuff. Lots of similarities in the two sports, believe it or not. So yeah, we did that, and then got the bug back on the oval tracks again after that.
How did your mom like that? So your dad's running super modifieds, you're running 200 kilometers an hour going downhill racing. Definitely had the family support. You guys traveled with your dad. Is that the case, or was your mom left back to take care of the house?
Oh no, we traveled a lot. We were so lucky, man. I was telling you the other day, like, the Van Trite family and your dad and all the crew, man, we had so much fun with those guys, and the Larson family, and we met so many other families from the States. But man, we were like a 6-pack movie of Canadians that would cruise around, and we had so much fun. It was really fun. You know, we go to Salt Lake City, or we go to Boise, or we go to Portland, or, you know, we went all over the place, and we had so much fun doing it. And those are all of our, you know, even though that we call them friends, they're basically family. You guys know how racing is. It's racing is a family. So yeah, we got to travel around, and God, I remember Doug Larson and my dad, they were so competitive. We didn't just show up. Like, we showed up and they would whoop ass. Like, they would set the track record and clean up, and all the Canadian guys are here, you know. But then they would drink whiskey till midnight the night before the race, and they'd get in their cars the next day, and they'd go out and set the track record again and whoop everybody's ass. So it was fun, and you know, they had a great rivalry. Yet they were teammates as Canadians as well, you know.
Yeah, there's a story of in Portland. I guess you guys were. My dad was saying you were playing quarters, and that was maybe at the racetrack or the hotel or something after, and then there was the road trip away from Portland where the Van Trite motor carriage, the rear door opened, and some inappropriate things were being flung your way in the way of stream of pee.
Yeah. It's still etched in my mind. I think I was only about 13 or 14, but yeah, I remember that very well. Yeah. And we'd always play quarters on rainouts, like rain delays. We'd be sitting there waiting in rain delays. I remember the Portland one very well. There's pictures of it, and we're all playing quarters. And yeah, those sorts of things are the underlyings of fun. You know, of course you want to be there racing, but the camaraderie of all the people in that old camera series. And now it's back again. They're doing this West Coast Vintage thing, as you know, Cole, you've been announcing when they've been out there. They're all back together. I think Bob Wills has about 15 cars, and they have an absolute blast. I went out and raced with them a couple times, and they're having some fun.
Yeah, obviously, I think whenever we go down there, Bob has at least half the field, over half the field.
Yeah, you bet. He's having fun with it. It's his passion, right? I mean, he's retired, and he loves the sport, always has. So it's his passion. And my brother and my dad run for him along with, God, there's probably been 15 or 20 guys, running with them that we've raced with in some way or another over the years. So, yeah.
Bart Smith is a local.
Cody's pulling up a.
Yeah, so that car there in the picture, that's the very first wild offset roadster on the West Coast, and man, did it cause a lot of uproar, even amongst the best of the best, like Rebel Jackson and Davey Hamilton. They all hated it and they all protested it all the time. It was horrible, but he just went out and whooped ass, and then literally a year later, everybody had one.
Yeah, because Jimmy Champagne was the guy out at Oswego that was running that kind of stuff, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, Jimmy Champagne is a very big advocate back in the day. I mean, Oswego was the center, well, probably still is the center of super modified racing is basically Oswego. So yeah, that car, my dad and a partner of his went out and picked up that chassis, and they built it over the winter, and right away she was fast, and she still is, and she still looks really, really good. The old Cami Special.
As Jerry was mentioning, that it wasn't so much a rule book, that it was more of like a rules pamphlet that regulated these things. So do you know what your dad like? Why wasn't this car being built in Western Canada? I'm sure obviously guys had the skills to do so. Was it just a little bit more knowledge that back east?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even to this day, you go back there and you see the technology they got. It's always just a little bit ahead of what's going on, out here. And we always try and copy what they're doing, so to speak. And, but you get back 4, 5, 6 years beyond this into the late 80s and early 90s. That Fire and Fury tour was something else, man. Like, there was some serious players in there, IndyCar racers, and that was a serious racing series. And that's why that was my dad's top of his career, is a professional career.
Nice. So I don't have an actual picture. Go ahead. Sorry, Cole.
Oh, no worries, Cody. I think there's a cool photo from Wenatchee a few years ago of your dad in that car. You're in the Diamond Lily car, and your brother's back in the Masterman, the number 5 car, and you guys are running 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's the $1 million picture. I mean, it's something else, man. That car I'm in, Sweet 16, I think that's version number 1 or maybe version number 2 of Sweet 16, one of the most famous cars ever to run Oswego Speedway. That's got a big block on the side of it. Thing weighs about 1,600 pounds, got like 900 horsepower. It's like jumping on a lightning bolt, man. I had so much fun there. And and I mean, my Uncle Johnny was racing in that race, and just tons of our family and friends were there. It was a great week, man. Wenatchee's part of our history. We have some of our best friends, the Mitchell family down there, and it's just Wenatchee's definitely a big keystone of our racing family's careers.
So I don't have an actual picture of you running a Deming, but I found a quarter midget number 21 on the side of it. I figured that might look like you if you try to get into a midget car right now.
There you go. I think I got a picture right here. I'll see if you can see this. You see this one?
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Oh yeah, one of the old mini sprints. For people listening to the video portion here, it's if you've ever seen the 600s down at Deming, it's like an early 90s version of that.
That's right.
Does it have down tubes?
No down tubes on that car. No, that was just a little bit before down tubes started. So kind of dating myself there, but and the skinny chicken legs, well, those came with it. And
they're fun. I still got those, so it's good.
You still got those, and the pink hat with the sunglasses. It just all goes together.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad, for these massive calves that I have.
Yeah.
So there's your start. You mentioned you and your brother, who about 5 years older. You guys are running these down there. What's sort of the next progression? What classes of cars you're running, and how are you moving along?
Well, what happened is, like I said, we took a hiatus, and then Sun Valley Speedway in Vernon got built in, I believe, 2000. And Jimmy got a ride with a guy out of Kamloops in a Cascar Sportsman. So that's when there was Cascar Sportsman at localized tracks. And then there was the Cascar Western Super Series and the Cascar Eastern Super Series. And the Super Series would come out to, the Eastern Super Series would come out to the West a couple times a year. So Jimmy started in the Cascar Sportsman Series, and I was his spotter and his crew. And like I was telling Cody the other day, I got the nickname the Rooster because I got in a lot of fights in the pits. I was always sticking up for my brother because he was pretty good, as usual. Jimmy's pretty good, so everybody was always after him, and I got in a lot of fights in the pits and stuff. And then I got involved. I got a street stock, and the Nascar Street Stock Series ran there as well. So that I was spotting for Jim for I think a year and a half, and then I was like, okay, I need to get behind the wheel. So I got a street stock, and we ran really well that first year, chasing the guy named Robin McCluskey forever. He won every race. Might have been running a stroker, maybe not. And then the next year, I won the Nascar Street Stock Championship, and I hooked up with Rob Zimmer. Donnie Kunka drives for him now in the
Zimmer Wheaton up there?
Zimmer
he's one of my biggest supporters. You know, just this is where our relationship started. I approached him and I said, hey, we got to get a car and run in the Super Series or in the Western Series. And so we rented a car from Ron Larson, and we went and ran our first race. We ran a Super Series race as the Eastern cars came out to Calgary. And then the next year we ran a full season in the Western Series. We won Rookie of the Year, most laps completed. We were quite successful, and I just kind of kept my nose clean. I knew I didn't have great equipment, so I didn't push it because I wanted to be in every race. You know, there was the Haars, you know, Carl and Daryl Haar and Kevin Dowler and Wade Lee and my brother and Donnie Sales, and there was some pretty serious shoes. And I just kept my nose clean, and then we ran, 2 seasons there. And then in 2007, NASCAR bought Nascar out, and we ran a couple of races there. We ran Vernon and we ran Calgary in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. And then we decided to go out east, and we went to Riverside, Antigonish, Nova Scotia, one of the most beautiful tracks you ever see in your life. It's based on Bristol. But we raced there, and then we raced the next week in Kawartha up in Peterborough. And then that's where we really got the bug, and it really started to take a toll. We committed to the full time in 2008. We had a relationship regionally with Wyatt McMurray, which Wyatt and his group own. I think they own up to 30 or 40 A&Ws now. So he's real good friends with Rob Zimmer. So we had a regional relationship with him in the Western Series, and he got us hooked up with A&W Canada, the national brand. And they committed to sponsor us, and we had a relationship for about 7 years with them. Really great relationship, and we ran full time in the series. Went up to about 2010 with our own equipment. That car that's at Montreal at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. If the people that are watching on the video, but 2010 was our last year that we ran RZ racing. We had 3 of our own cars, and our equipment was getting old, and we couldn't justify buying brand new cars and stepping up our game. So A&W was still with me personally, and I moved on, and I started driving for DJK Racing. And in 2011, we had a relationship with Dave and Derek Lynch, and I ran with them, and really started to get a lot of road racing experience. Had a lot of awesome finishes, three sixth place finishes in road racing, which was crazy for me. I never ever liked road racing until I actually got in some good equipment, and now I actually prefer it. So got in there and ran for a few other car owners throughout the next 4 or 5 years, and then just last summer we ran our 100th race in the NASCAR Canadian Tires / NASCAR Pinty Series. So
it's awesome.
Maybe talk a little bit about what it's like, what went into trying to close that A&W deal.
I really learned a lot early on in my life about the promotional side of things, and you can be the best driver in the world, and if you walk into a marketing meeting and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I've won 40 races, and this is me, and this is who I am, you're basically, they're going to hear blah, blah, blah. You got to tell them what their return on investment is, how you can activate their brand, how you can engage for them with the fan, how you can get that fan to not only meet you at a restaurant with your car and hang out, but then you can get them to buy a ticket for the racetrack, or you do some giveaways or something. And you got to show them how obviously their return on investment is going to be. That's the most important thing in the world to them. don't get me wrong, they want you to be successful, especially at, say, at Vernon every year was the A&W 300. So obviously they want you to be successful in the A&W 300. And the last one we ever ran, we finished 5th, which was pretty big for us. DJ Kennington, Scott Steckley, JR Fitzpatrick, guys like that, and Jason White. It's like, holy cow, we did really well in that race. So you got to show them that you're there to market the brand rather than I'm going to go win races for you. I've won 100 races and I'm going to go out and be the A&W guy. Well, it just doesn't work like that. So I really learned a lot going way back to when I was a kid from those, some of those promoters like Dick Boness. And now I got a good friend of mine that runs Gateway Motor Speedway. He's in the group of Rob Zimmer and Wyatt McMurray. Chris Blair is his name. They're all really good buddies. And you just you get your fingers in the pie wherever you can, and you learn how to get into those meetings. And when you do, you do 1,000 cold calls before you get one opportunity. And if you get an opportunity to go into a meeting and try and sell your program and sell what racing you're going to be involved with and how you can benefit them, you're as close as you're ever going to get. So you really need to be spot on in that meeting.
Yeah, it's like showing up to a new track. You got to do your homework. You got to know what that brand's trying to do and what their reach is. We talk a little bit on the podcast about different strategies and people, for sponsorships and stuff. What was one big thing that you did that you found successful when you went into those meetings?
Being confident. When you're standing in front of 4 or 5 or 6 executives, that you got to think how many times they've heard these pitches, how many times they've heard why you should sponsor not just auto racing, but anything. People are coming at them for everything. So you got to be honest. You got to be powerful. You can't stutter. You got to be able to get to the point really quick. You got about 15 minutes with people like that. And you got to be able to really get to the point. And if they ask you questions back, you've gained on them right there. You got to be able to get them to ask you questions, and you got to have answers for those questions. Again, if you get there, that's 90% of the battle.
Nice. Yeah, I said when we talked earlier this week, you mentioned that you really want to work on your network, but then also provide some actual stuff back to them in the ways of hospitality packages and providing that experience. Because some people that A&W executives might know some stuff about racing, but try to get them in the door at the racetrack and get them hooked that way as well. Did you have any experience of having the big businessmen come in and just have an absolute blast of tracks with you, and or was there still a separation there?
Oh no, we took Paul Hollins, the CEO, and a couple of the other executives on a ride along. We had a 2-seater at Vernon. The day of the A&W 300, we took them for a rip. They had an absolute blast. At any given time at the A&W 300, they had upwards of 300 to 400 people at their hospitality. So we had contests where we brought, what do we do? Probably 3 or 4 of them. The people that won the contest, we brought them to Montreal, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, all expenses paid, traveled with us to the track, had pit accreditations, the full Monty, everything was covered for them. So we did a lot of that, and A&W loved that. I mean, they had a promotion going on for a long time. I don't know if you guys remember. It's called Cruising the Dub. Yeah. And all the A&Ws would have all the hot rod cars come in on Thursday nights, and we were tied to that. The same guy, Roger Barnes, that ran Cruising the Dub, he ran the NASCAR program as well. So we would have to go a couple days early to whether it was London, Ontario, when we were running at Delaware Speedway, or it was at Barrie Speedway in Barrie, or wherever we were. We had to go a couple days early and bring the hauler and bring the car. And we had to go, and we gave out tickets to races and things like that. So yeah, we really worked hard at it. That was half of the whole battle, like going to the racetrack and actually putting the car on the racetrack and getting this stuff to be actually at the racetrack is literally half of the battle. Getting there is so important, and all of that activation and engagement was just so important. And it's a lot of hard work. I mean, you're away from your family a lot more, and it's you're eating a lot of teen burgers. I had to switch to the chicken burger because man, I ate a lot of teen burgers over 7 years. Good old
chubby burgers, they're delicious.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Gained a chin or two.
Nice. All right, so going back onto the track a little bit here. Once you make it to the track, I found some good videos of you on the road course and having some little spin outs and finding some tires and stuff. And then the next photo I found, speaking of tires, was this one.
Oh yeah.
And the best part, I got this off your Facebook page, and the tire is tagged Jason White.
Yeah.
So,
you bet.
So this one here, and then the next one comes up, and this looks like the result of that tire gone awry. So what happened there? Who forgot to put the fifth wheel lug on?
Man, I'm not gonna incriminate anybody, but that was the front tire changer. So I'll just leave it at that. He knows who that is.
Is he bent down trying to make sure he puts that one on right now?
Yeah, he certainly is.
The tire carrier
that's at Riverside too.
That's at Riverside, you bet. And that's a steep bank track. I almost lost it. It was so close to losing it and hitting the wall there. That was one of those ones where it really made your eyeballs pop out. Yeah.
Didn't DJ have a stuck throttle there one time?
DJ's, oh man, that was right in front of me. I felt so bad for him. I almost canceled my flight and drove his hauler home because his eyeballs bulged out of his head. He hit so hard. He still to this day says that's the hardest hit he's ever had because he was just coming in, just let off the brake, and as soon as he let off the brake, the right front control arm, the lower control arm let go, and he hit that wall so hard, man. Holy cow. It was insane. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that one from TSN.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one too.
Up to the ARCA race here, we have looks like you might have been trying to negotiate with the 46 car, and
Tad Moffat
might have won that negotiation. He is going the wrong way, or she, I'm not sure who's driving this, going the wrong way.
Yeah, okay, so I was biding my time, and it was time to go. That was about 13 laps to go, I think, and I was saving everything, and I was staying with the lead pack and doing my job. And I followed Tad. That's Richard Petty's grandson. I followed Tad for about 5 laps, and there was Bobby Gerhardt right up on the high side there. And I can't remember who was in Kenny Schrader's 52 car there that year, if it was Natalie or if it was somebody else. Maybe it was David Gravel. Anyways, but we were nose to tail, and my spotter kept telling me to stay on the bottom. Well, my car, believe it or not, at Daytona, like, your car can get tight, especially in the draft. I kept getting tight. So finally I went, you know what? I'm going to the top to see what happens. And I went up top, and we picked up like 0.7 of a second. I'm right on Tad Moffat's bumper. He's on Gerhardt's bumper. Gerhardt's on the 52s. And these are solid, like as solid race cars as you could ever get, especially in the ARCA series, those 3 cars. I'm in a sub kind of car, it's a 1.5 mile car, turned into a super speedway car. I'm happy where I'm at. So I followed Tad in to turn 3, 4 or 5 times, nothing. Everything was fine. I was high, wide, and handsome. All of a sudden we come into 3, and I just saw it twitch. And as soon as the 46 car twitched, it's happened so fast it'll blow your mind. Everything, all hell broke loose, man. It was just like Days of Thunder. It was like, go for the smoke, and by the time you get there, it'll be gone. Well, he wasn't.
He was still there.
He was still there. So that picture is kind of funny because it looks like I'm going to T-bone him, but I veered to the right there. He just clipped me. I missed Gerhardt, and he just clipped me, and it sent me up, and I pancaked the wall. And I tell you, it was like somebody hit me with a 5-foot tall piece of steel as hard as they could, like whack, but it didn't hurt because the adrenaline was so heavy that it didn't hurt till the next day. And then like my eyelashes hurt the next day. It was something fierce, hit the wall at 190 miles an hour is something else. So we get back to the pits, and I feel something's not right, obviously. Right. So we come into the pits, and they change the tires, pull out all the fenders and stuff, and they go, okay, go. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get back out there, and I'm like, something's not right. Something's not right. I'm hitting the brakes, and it's pulling to the left. They're like, well, don't hit the brakes. I'm like, well, okay. I guess you don't need the brakes. So anyways, the hardest thing I've ever done my whole entire life is go green, because we went green and I had to go. There's nothing I could do. Well, I got down into turn 1, and it started pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And I go to hit the brake, and it just wanted to make the back end loose. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to hit the wall coming off of 2. This is going to ruin my day. This is going to be horrible. I missed the wall by about 1/2 inch. And then I just backed right out of it. And I was like, okay, well, there's only 5 laps left by this time. I just rode around. I think we ended up 16th. Come into the pits, and they take the right front tire off, and the rotor is broken off of its 5 mounting points on the bolts. It's completely broken. So the right front brake wasn't even there, you know. So that was an interesting day for sure.
So you're trying to get some more left side weight on that sucker by taking the brakes out.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, so normally we talk to the guys, obviously short track radio, we talk to short track guys typically. What did you find the biggest transition from running? Well, you know, Vernon's a decent sized track as well, sort of half mile banked and stuff like that. Was that a good, you know, learning ground for you? What kind of skills and tips and tricks could you take from running in a late model style car like Nascar, and then jumping up into the laptop here, jumping up to ARCA car, you know, the RBR truck and things like that?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of people that were helping me. So like, obviously, you know, DJ K has been one of, but DJ's hooked me up with all of this stuff all the way through. So I raced for him. He hooked me up with Reaume Brothers Racing, which they're out of Victoria, by the way.
Yep, absolutely.
Josh Reaume and the Chocolate Rocket. But
yeah.
So
really?
DJ hooked me up with them. And then in turn, I got hooked up with Andy Hillenberg. And Andy Hillenberg is Fast Track Racing. So he supplies all the cars for like Days of Thunder and for all of the commercials and all that stuff. So I get hooked up with all these guys. So I've got some of the best. Parker Kligerman was there for me. You know, all these guys are just absolutely experienced as ever. And here they are.
Come on, Cole. Phone's ringing in the background.
I know. We're in the middle of it. There we go. Phones stop ringing. We're good.
Here they are at my beck and call telling me how to do, you know, like a DJ said, you know, the first time you get out there, you're going down into turn 3. He said, don't even breathe the throttle. You have to hold it to the ground, hold it to the floor. If you lift the first time, you will always have tendency to lift. So I'm going down the back straightaway and I'm like, I'm not really that religious, but I'm doing the Hail Marys. I'm going, oh man, I'm going to jump right off the end of this track and I'm going to fly all the way to the to Daytona Beach. And it just looks like you're going to just fly right off the end. So, all right, well, I'm in it now. So I go down the straightaway, hold her to the floor, get to turn 3, boom, up on the banking, and it holds like, it feels like you're glued to the track. So then the next lap you go in, you got more confidence. Next lap you go in, you got more confidence. But the actual riding around yourself and trying to find speed in single car runs is actually quite boring. Honestly, it really is. Once you've had 15 or 20 or 25 laps under your belt and they're trying to get you into qualifying trim, or they're trying to find some speed, they're trying to do whatever, you know, they can, and you're just like, oh man, okay, this is kind of boring. But you put cars around you and then she's go time, and it gets real in a hurry, and you really got to have your wits about you. So that's where you need, I was really lucky enough to have Josh Williams. He's Ryan Blaney's spotter. He was spotting for me the first time, my first 2 races, and my race in the truck at Phoenix, he was there too. So he was a great coach for me and kept me calm and told me when I should go and when I shouldn't go, and when to, you know, when I'm coming on pit road, what to do. So basically you just got to listen to everybody that's willing to give you any information or any advice, and take every piece of advice that anybody, like, you know, Kenny Schrader was giving me advice.
Wicked.
You know, so here I am, I was a sponge, you know. And then back this year when we went back again, if someone's willing to tell you a piece of information, you can take what you want out of it, but I'm a sponge.
Nice. You mentioned this year, bring up this next picture here, early in January. So running the 33 truck in Daytona. So you start off with the ARCA that week. I think the race was on the 8th, and then you jump into the truck. Obviously, you're jumping back and forth the whole time. How was that experience in Daytona this year?
Well, you know, like I said, I started driving for the Reaume Brothers Racing 3 years ago now, I guess, at Mosport on the road course, because they needed a road course driver. So, you know, we did that, and then we went to Phoenix that year to try and start getting my super speedway license processed. That's the process. You got to keep going up there. And then I had to go to ARCA. Then I got approved at ARCA from Brett Bodine and Joe Balish. And then I was approved for the truck race. Well, we missed the truck race last year by, honestly, it was like 0.024 or something. It was like thousands. It wasn't even a tenth, or hundreds. It wasn't even a tenth. So that was really degrading. It was just so horrible to make that Facebook Live post, because I'm very big on, you have to tell your fans and everybody who's watching the good and the bad. You can't just always tell the good, because that's not racing, right? So we had a bad week there, missing the race, but then we bounced back a year later. You know, we qualified in the ARCA race the week before. We qualified 4th, which was mind-boggling. I'm still in a 1.5-mile car. Everybody else is in super speedway spaceships, Ventures Motorsports, and I was like, I really didn't belong where I was with the car I was in, so to speak, or even me. You know, the car is probably better than the driver, but so then we end up 6th in that race, and I'm riding this wave. I'm riding a high wave, right? I'm just like, wow, this is great. You know, I'm just waiting for everything to fall apart, because that's racing, right? You're way up on the highs, and okay, what's going to happen? So we open up tech on Thursday, and they had changed that. Tech usually was Wednesday, Thursday. So this year it was just Thursday. Well, man, we couldn't get through tech. It's so hard. And then you got to go to the back of the line. Even if like your ride height is out a 1/16 of an inch, you got to go fix it, and you go to the back of the line, back to the 40 trucks in front of you. You're like, oh my God. So we finally get it through tech. And then Friday for qualifying, we couldn't get through tech again. Now there's a different set of tech rules that are not rules, but different parameters that you got to get through on Friday. So Friday, you know, I've got to qualify in my spot. Otherwise, we will not be available for a provisional. So I'm sitting there. I'm so glad my brother was there and Mike Ernst were there, because they were like more counseling me than anything, because we couldn't get through. We were supposed to be gridded, and literally it was 1-2 minutes away from us being gridded, and we were just rolling out of tech. As we rolled off the ramps, I was jumping in the truck. They were locking me in. I forgot my gloves. Somebody just threw me a pair of gloves that they were working on the truck with, and it was just like, oh my God. And I'd only been 3 laps in this truck. 3 laps I had been in this truck before I qualified. I didn't even know what it was going to do. So we get down, just make by literally the skin of our teeth. We get down into our pits, or into our grid stall, and fire it up. You know, don't hit the brake pedal. Don't touch the brake pedal, because, you know, they're wired back, all that. They're not wired back, but they're clamped back, whatever. So get out there, and we just barely make the race. Skin of our teeth, just barely make the race. So here we are. Okay, we made the race. Failed last year, made it this year. Okay, at least we're in. It was the greatest feeling ever, because we're in. Had a great spotter, Randy, old Southern guy. You know, he kept me clean, and we had talked to Spencer Boyd and Natalie Decker and, oh God, Jesse Little, and we had about 5 or 6 of us that were just going to stay at the tail end of the lead pack and try and stay there the whole, 90% of the race. And and my other teammate Angela Ruck, but at lap 2, Angela didn't abide by that, and she went up and passed a bunch of trucks, and then she crashed about 185 miles an hour. But I stayed back there, and I just told my spotter I stayed behind Spencer Boyd for a long time, and then Natalie and I kept switching back and forth because we were heating up, so our spotters were letting us switch so we can get some cool air in the rad, and we stayed back there until, oh God, there was about 5 to go, and I'm thinking, here I am being just nice and smooth and trying to stay out of trouble, and just lo and behold, this race, there isn't going to be that late race caution. And my spotter said, oh, don't worry, it's coming. I'm like, yeah, right. So whatever, we're going to finish 20th or whatever. 3 to go, the big one. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So we get through it, get through the cautions, line up 8th, 4th row outside behind Anderson, who ended up finishing 2nd. I raced with him all night long. And when we go green, the truck started running out of fuel. It just bogged a little bit. And Riley Herbst was behind me in a Kyle Busch truck and just started drifting me. And it was like I was getting hit by a dump truck, man. He was hitting me so hard. So he starts driving me into turn 1, and I'm cruising through turn 1 with Riley pushing me. Get down the back straightaway. It burped one more time. But by that time, I had lost about 5 positions. So I thought, man, what the hell? I had an opportunity here. Like, I could have even won the race. So we come around to the white flag. And I swear, man, it was like a war zone going into turn 1. Ross Chastain was up into the wall, and he comes back and he bounces off of somebody that was on, in the middle of the track, and there's sparks flying and there's pieces flying, and we're going into turn 3, and my spotter's like, 3 wide, you're in the middle, 4 wide, you're in the middle, you're in the middle. And I just remember saying to myself, well, you ain't lifting now, because here we are, you've worked all your life, and there's just no point in lifting now because we'll roll and tumble to the start finish line from here. Even if that's what happens, we ain't lifting. So we come out of 4. I'm still drafting. We kind of get caught in the middle again, and I shoot out the middle of about 5 trucks and ended up 10th. And that was pretty awesome feeling for sure.
Yeah, it seems chaotic there. How is the draft? Like you say, you're shooting out. Like, do you actually feel the truck kind of when like you're side drafting and coming up behind guys? Do you feel that? Is it just a little bit of resistance? What's going on when you?
You know what? Like you got it, especially in the trucks because they poke such a big hole in the air. The cars. The thing with the ARCA cars, they're what they call the beach ball. You can get right up to somebody, but then getting that last 2 feet to actually hit their bumper and push them, there's a beach ball there, and it's really hard. You need somebody or even 2 people behind you giving you that shove to get them there. The trucks are totally different. They poke such a big hole in there. You catch them so fast that you're like, whoa, I'll never forget. I was going down the back straightaway, and Jordan Anderson, I just about ran him right over because there was 4 trucks in front of him, and I was in their draft, and I was probably going 15 miles an hour faster. So the thing about the trucks is the noise of the draft. Like every little tiny gap from the windshield to the pillar or whatever, if there's a tiny, tiny little gap in there, it'll start popping and cracking. It'll sound like something's wrong with the truck. And so you got to get used to that sound. And then when you get up and you side draft somebody, that sound will go away completely, and it'll be like completely quiet in the truck. Then you move out of the draft, and then it's like bang, pop, 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 bang, bang, bang. It's like it's really, really loud. So it's hard to get used to. I remember the first time I got out there and that started happening. I was like, I'm coming in. There's something wrong. They're like, nothing's wrong. And they got the telemetry and stuff. There's nothing's wrong. I'm like, well, it sounds like it. They're like, don't worry about sound. Just fucking pin it, So it is something that definitely it's really hard to get used to. And once you figure out the side draft and you get your inner Dale Earnhardt going where he would come up and he would side draft and then he would just pull away. You actually get that truck loose that you did that to. But you shoot ahead 2 car lengths, and if there's somebody up there that you can tag on with and get into their draft, it doesn't matter. Like being in, Josh doesn't have the greatest equipment and we know that, he knows that, but you don't need to be in great equipment at Daytona and Talladega. You just need to be able to draft well and stay with that draft. And if you can, you could win the race. There's no reason why you can't win the race.
And what was on the schedule for this year for you before, the COVID shutdown? What was your next race and what was your plan for the year?
Well, we did so well there in the ARCA race and the truck race, and both vehicles with not a mark on them. So car owners were happy. Andy Hillenberg was happy. Josh was happy. We were set to do Talladega April 24th in the ARCA car and keep going with that. And then, there's talk of building a super speedway car for me for Daytona. But all this has all changed now. So what it looks like, hopefully, if everything goes well, we should be at Talladega in October. And it looks like ARCA is going to reschedule their April 24th date to run with, it'll be NASCAR ARCA Series, Gander Outdoor Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup at Talladega in October. So hopefully we'll get out and do double duty out there, or at least be in one or the other. Obviously I want to be in the trucks. If I can get another race in the trucks at Talladega, then I just need to do one start in a Cup car. And if, all the moons and stars all line up for me, I could be in the Daytona 500 in the next few years. Certification wise, I'd be eligible for that. So that would be kind of, okay, once you get to that point, you don't need to be eligible anymore. You don't have to keep going through this process. Process is done. If you can find sponsorship, you can find the ride, you can be in the Daytona 500. So that's kind of obviously a dream. But I haven't had a dream that I haven't made yet. So I'm just going to kind of keep that dream and see what goes on. And in the meantime, we'll probably, if and when the Pinty series comes back to play, we'll probably do a couple races with DJK Racing. We got the dirt track at Oshweekend, and we're looking forward to running Oshweekend. I love the opportunity to get going. I got in on my sim rig on iRacing, and I've been running street stocks at Knoxville. That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw you mentioned today. You and Emerson were talking there, saying that Knoxville is one of your favorite tracks to run.
Well, the other night I was running with, there was a few guys even from the, not the Outlaw series, but Tony Stewart's series there. And I was running with those guys and I was asking them questions. Yeah, there's my sim rig. That's my daughter. She's actually doing pretty good there, I think, at Talladega. But yeah, so I love going. My favorite of the whole sim racing thing, like we're doing it because NASCAR and the Canadian Pinty series people, they want us to be out there and, you know, still being out there as much as we can. So that's the biggest reason I got the rig. But the most fun I'm having is, like I said, racing Knoxville the other night with a bunch of heavies, and they're not answering my questions anymore. So I was asking questions about wing angles and offsets and gears. And when I first came in there and I was 3 seconds off the pace, they were giving me all these pointers. And now all of a sudden I know I'm getting good because nobody's giving me pointers anymore. It's just like the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Cole, we have. Go ahead, Cole.
There's just one more thing. I don't know if Cody has a picture, but you guys had the chance to run the Humboldt tribute car in Saskatchewan a few years ago, back when all that went down. And I think he had some of the Broncos team members at the track with you guys too.
Man, that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done, not just in racing, just in my life. I was racing for DJK and in the 28 car. DJ did that tribute at Bristol in the Cup car on the hood. And then we auctioned off that hood and raised a bunch of money for the Humboldt Broncos. And so we decided to do a full-blown first race in Saskatoon back since the Humboldt thing, whatever, 3 or 4 months after the accident. And we went to the Dodge dealership there with the cars. We had Andrew Ranger's car, DJ's car, and the car I was driving, the Humboldt Broncos tribute car. And then we were the first people allowed to get a tour of the dressing room since the accident. And we walked in there and it was surreal, man. It was really surreal. You know, we're looking at the benches that had been signed that day of the guys that it was their last season. They were the veterans and stuff, you know, so it was really very humbling. And then we met a lot of people that they were still hurting really, really bad. You know, I remember the color commentator, he came with us and he was just, you know, he was very emotional and stuff. So we go to the track for the race. And yeah, I think there was 6 of the guys, the survivors that were at the track with us, all in great spirits. You know, they were awesome. And each one of us, on the back of our, instead of, you know, NASCAR, you put your last name on the rear window, we put one of the players that had passed. And I had the coach, Darcy Hogan, and I had a connection with a good friend of mine's cousin was Evan Thomas that was in there. So DJ had Evan Thomas, and it was pretty emotional, man. But I tell you, I think it was, and still probably is, the most famous race car to ever race at Auto Clearing Motor Speedway.
Nice. Well, it was nice to see that.
Yes.
You know, it's an easy gesture to do, to put a name on a car, but I think it helped that community, and it's nice that you did have a tie with that community and chose to promote it and try to help and heal people. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, so Saskatoon's kind of my pseudo home track now, because obviously Sun Valley Motorplex Speedway unfortunately is closed. Such a shame. Nicest facility in Canada, man, especially for racers. All concreted pits, level pads, water, hydro, like pit lane, everything, you know. So
we can't rename it Powder Excavating Speedway, or what?
Yeah, I wish. We've tried to get some people together. It's the freaking community. You know how it is. Too loud, too noisy, whatever. So now Saskatoon's kind of like my home track, even though it's 18 hours away. When we come out west, everybody's like, "Oh, we're coming out to your track." It's like, well, it's kind of not really that close to my house, but I'll take it. Whatever. I love the people.
A few provinces over.
Yeah, exactly. But so Rob Zimmer, my old partner from Zimmer Wheaton GMC and the Zimmer Auto Group, he's from Saskatoon and not far from Humboldt. So this all kind of fit in, and that's another reason why I've got so many fans in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan, is because I had that connection with my partner, my car owner there as well. So that was another factor of why we really went big with the Humboldt Broncos tribute car. Rob Zimmer was involved with it as well, even though it was a Dodge. And he's a GM guy, but he put all that aside, and that goes to show you, because he don't like that Mopar brand very much, but he swallowed his pride because he knew that what we were doing was more important than anything.
Well, maybe it's time for some rapid fire questions, or did you have another question there, Cole?
I just one more. There's a race that I always love, and it's the GP3R Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get your insight on what it's like, because it's a street course, but it's like the Bristol of street courses.
Yeah, and margin of error is slim to none. I'll never forget the first time I went there, and it's like you said, a temporary road course. It goes around the Notre Dame cemetery, and you go through the big Duplessis gates. You see the famous pictures of race cars coming through the Duplessis gates, and that's probably one of the best photos that I ever have had in my racing career. But there's cobblestone streets, so you're going from like asphalt to concrete to cobblestone, and you got to keep your control of your car. And I tell you, like all the Frenchmen, it means everything in the world to win GP3R. Like if they can win GP3R, and they will wreck each other, they'll wreck anybody. They'll wreck their grandmother. Like they don't care. It's the biggest thing to them to win GP3R. So when I first went there, I wasn't a very good road racer at the time, and I just kept my nose clean, and we kept the car in one piece, and I just got used to it. And then after about 5 or 6 years, I started getting into some good equipment. I ended up finishing sixth there one year. It's so tight that the walls are so close to you. And, our top speed there, I think, is 155 or something miles an hour coming down the front straightaway and to turn into a 90-degree hard right, and then a 90-degree hard left, and then you're downhill into the Duplessis gates, and then up the hill, picking up gears. And it's just, Alex Tagliani or Jacques Villeneuve will go by you like you're going backwards. And then a lot of times they end up crashing each other or whatever, but you just can't even fathom how fast they're going. You're like, well, I'm not going to go that fast. I'm just going to stay on the lead lap and get what I can at the end of the race here. So it rained so hard there one year, and we were racing in the hard rain too. It's just the GP3R is probably one of the funnest races you'll ever go to. Cole, if you really think that's one of the fun ones that you've ever seen, you got to go there because it's a festival. It's like they got up big jumbotrons in the streets. All the streets are closed down for like 5 days, and it's a festival. And there's like all these parades, and they got our names up on these jumbotrons and pictures of our race cars, and the fans come from everywhere, and they're partying from like 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight, honestly, or 1 o'clock in the morning. They party. That's all they do. And they go to these races, and it's like the French fans they're absolutely fanatical about car racing. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I got to say it's probably one of the best overall, festivals of racing that you'll ever feel. It's kind of like the Le Mans or something, Yeah.
Sounds like a good road trip for Short Track Radio. It'll be our first out of province podcast.
We're going to Quebec.
I could get you some pretty awesome passes there from Dominique, and maybe even get Cole on that broadcast there with TSN. I've been working on that, Cole. I told you I was good. I still have been working on that.
Awesome. Well, I'm getting the TV experience for them, so you can pitch that too now.
Good.
Awesome. So we typically end with 5 rapid fire questions. For those who've listened for the last few podcasts, you'll know that I have problems pulling up the questions or forget them, whatever else. Today, I actually wrote them down because we have a NASCAR driver on here. I'm going to be prepared. So,
of course.
So, first question.
This isn't an outlaw podcast. This is a sanctioned podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to watch what we're saying on this. So, pre-race traditions.
My biggest pre-race tradition is my stuff organized in my bag properly. I have to have my helmet has got to be in first in my bag, and then I always put certain things around my helmet to protect my visor. Then my suit goes in, and then as I open my bag, I pick stuff out of my bag in a certain way, and that's really my biggest tradition. I don't have any things that I eat, or I don't eat anything heavy the night before, but mainly how I pack my bag.
Nice. What's the deal with your number? So 21 seems to be the common theme here, but you've run some different numbers. And what's with the 21?
21 is I picked that because my dad was 27. My brother's prominent number for a long time was 23. 21 was available, so I went with 21, and I was always adamant about being 21 until opportunities start to come out. And then I realized that I'll run any number. I'll run like a pink jalopy with 3 wheels if it's competitive. I don't care what number's on it. I just love racing.
Nice. Car or race that you want to compete in?
Daytona 500.
Nice.
Yep. I want to be the next Canadian. You know, there's a couple people from Victoria that have ran in it. DJ K's ran in it. Trevor Boyes has ran in it. I think I got a knack for super speedway racing, and I think I can do it. The sponsorships there, definitely Daytona 500.
Awesome. So we'll have A&W and Zimmer on the side of the Zimmer Wheaton on the side of a car there.
You never know.
Nice. So a lot of talk about the Rooster nickname before, and some great spotter comments so far. But what is your best spotter or crew member comment?
4 wide, you're in the middle, going 190 miles an hour into turn 3, the last lap of the Gander Outdoor Truck Series race this year. Yeah, 4 wide, you're in the middle, and you don't even have time to process that until actually you take the checkered flag and you on your cool down lap coming down the back straightaway, and you're like, did he say 4 wide and you're in the middle?
Nice. This can go back to when you were 10 to 13 years old, sleeping under trailers with super modifieds around. What was the best track for an after party?
The best track for an after party? Well, that actually is going to be Skagit Speedway Dirt Cup. I mean, the Kadings used to show up. They were sponsored by Budweiser. They had taps off the back of their trailers. So the old days of Dirt Cup, there's not even anything remotely like it anymore. Like, I can't even explain how amazing those days were in the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s. It's not even remotely close anymore to what it used to be like. It was a freaking lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a few stories of Skagit I love. So awesome photos and different things. I love the A&W car. It was iconic. I was actually looking through some old sponsorship stuff that I had, and I sorry to say I stole your car and put my number on it, and then went to A&W's locally. And I was trying to get some sponsorship. So
awesome.
Great things. I just have one concern though. I was looking at your VR setup here. Your daughter seemed to steal. Oh, wrong one here. Go back. This helmet here.
Yes.
Did you lose a bet or something? It's a San Fran. I know. I seen you went to you went to a few games and watched them. So what's the near and dear? What's the story behind the San Fran?
I was at the Super Bowl this year, man.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty awesome.
It was awesome, yeah. No, I've been a fan of the San Francisco 49ers since the catch, man. And big Joe Montana fan, Jerry Rice fan, been a fan all the time. My son is a Seahawks fan. I don't know what happened to him. So we went down to the Monday Night Football game in San Fran this past November, and we had a great time. Lost in double overtime to the Hawks. But no, I'm a diehard Niners fan, and there ain't nothing going to change that. I actually saw somebody the other day, the big Niners fan, had their racing helmet painted like 49ers helmet. I would do that in a heartbeat. Yeah,
you've had some pretty cool helmets. I like the old Bandit style. The A&W had the sort of broken up lightning bolts on it. That was
the Stig helmet.
Yeah, it's great.
Sure.
That was my first helmet. I bought it off of Guy Barrett, is a local racer here at Western Speedway, and runs sprint cars now. But I borrowed his red Bandit helmet. I thought it was the coolest kid in the world, running my soapbox with a Bandit helmet on.
Jerry Vantrate ran a red Bandit helmet.
Yeah, that's probably where it came from, because that was 66 Junior IMCA modified, which is numbered after Ventrate's car. Yeah, I do remember that actually. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Taking some time with your busy schedule and iRacing and all the rest of it, and wishing you all the best of luck here when we get back to racing.
Awesome. Yeah, I glitched out yesterday while we were at the race at Mosport, or at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I don't know what happened, freaking internet or whatever it was, or iRacing glitched out, and I was in 11th and holding my own, and something glitched out on there. So yeah, whatever. We're gonna do some more this week, and I'm getting better at it. But when we're done here, I'm going to Eldora.
Nice.
And I'm gonna rock the show at Eldora.
We'll have to share login or share the name so we can see when we're online and race against each other.
Right on, man. for sure.
Well, we have to say that Western Speedway's got its own series coming up, a 4-race series.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Derek Kraus from the K&N West Series champion from last year.
He's good.
24 Western Speedway drivers are locked in, but there's 6 spots available for non-Western Speedway drivers, and I think we know who to talk to since I'm doing the broadcast with the guy that's sponsoring the series.
All
we
right.
wanted to find somebody to run a Cole Trickle 46 scheme with short track radio on it.
Take him on the outside, Cole. Take him on the outside.
Perfect. So there you go. Jason,
what cars is it?
It's Super Lates.
Super Lates, okay.
So it's an interesting schedule. They're running at Richmond, and they're going to run at Daytona.
Okay.
And they're going to run at Sonoma on the road course, and then at Phoenix.
Done.
Sweet. So there you go. Cody, breaking news, Jason White is driving the Cole Trickle short track radio 46.
Nice. And if he cancels, we'll just cut this part out.
Exactly.
No, I'll do it. But, Cody, are you racing in it?
I am, yes. 2005 Rookie of the Year, Western Speedway is making his return to a late model.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can find a crew chief that can sit there and eat some ice cream for me while I'm out there in the 46 Cole Trickle car.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm excited to get my dad to do it, but he doesn't want to pay the $11 a month to get it. And I don't want to pay for it either.
Okay, well, shoot me some information on that, Cole. Send it to me on Facebook or whatever, Messenger or whatever.
Yeah, awesome. There we go. So a big announcement from Short Track Radio. Thanks again, Jason, for coming on. And this has been another edition of Short Track Radio. Tune in whenever we feel like posting next.